Welcome to the Story Fulfilled podcast, where we deep dive into how each character and story in the Bible come together to fulfill the story of God. I'm Jay.
I'm Fletcher.
And I'm Abby.
And today's story is about the Roman Centurion whose servant was healed.
Doesn't have a name. We can't make fun of it.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
He's Roman.
Hey, Centurion.
Yeah, you have a good position in the army. Take that.
Take that, you Roman.
Can you imagine?
And just like every week, we have a question. But unlike every other week, Abby's going to ask this question.
Yes, this is my question. Well, actually, every question's my question. But this one, this one, nobody else wanted to read. So, here we go.
Let's hear it.
So much like a celebrity, Jesus constantly had paparazzi following him around. And in recent years, some celebs have tried doing different things to kind of bug the paparazzis from following them. So, for example, Daniel Radcliffe wore the same outfit for 6 months so that it looked like all the pics were from the same day. And so
Clever
it really
man.
bugged the
Clever
paparazzi.
man.
Or like Sophie Turner and Joe Jonas, they make some really stupid poses whenever they're seen.
I don't know who Sophie Turner is.
Wife of Joe Jonas, Game of Thrones.
Yeah, she's in
She's
Game of
also,
Thrones.
Joe Jonas is Game of... I thought it was the Jonas brother.
Joe Jonas is Game of Thrones.
Joe-
Sophie Turner is from Game of Thrones.
Well, I thought
Yeah.
Joe Jonas was a Jonas brother.
He is.
He is a Jonas
Oh, he
brother.
is?
He's
he's
yeah,
the
Joe-
oldest.
One of the Jonas Brothers singers.
Joe,
He's
Nick,
the
Kevin
oldest,
Jonas,
yes.
And he's also in Game of Thrones.
No,
he's
he's
married
not.
to
Sophie
Sophie Turner,
Turner.
who's in
Who's
Game
in
of
Game of
Thrones.
Thrones?
She's
She's
most
also
well-known.
Phoenix from the X-Men
I don't
movies.
get it.
Phoenix.
Yeah, she's Phoenix. She's
She's
in a
Jean
couple
Grey
things,
from X-Men.
but she's most well known
Anyway,
for Game of Thrones.
they did
Anyways.
funny
I've
poses.
just outed myself as disconnected.
Yes, very.
Okay, carry on.
What else?
And
Who
then
did
the last
something
one
weird?
is Cole Sprouse. He takes out, whenever he sees someone taking a picture of him, he'll take his phone out and he calls it like Photo Wars, and he has this whole Instagram account of him taking pictures of people taking up pictures
Do
of
you know
him.
who Cole Sprouse is?
No.
This is the sweet
Life of Zack and Cody?
Or
Oh, okay.
Riverdale more recently.
Yeah, no.
But
Yeah.
Riverdale.
Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
I've never watched either.
What an old man.
Either
All
show.
right.
My goodness.
I
Okay,
know.
well,
Let's have an
anyways,
answer.
the question, if you
I have-
had paparazzi following you all the time,
Which I do.
what would you do to bug them back?
See, I'd say the same thing as Daniel Radcliffe, but that happens to me anyway because I don't often. I just have the same clothes.
I'm actually very proud of you. You're wearing like a very
It's a
different
new
shirt
hat. I
today.
got a stained shirt. The whole shebang.
This is
No, I
great.
think I'd just take my shirt off. That's a pretty common thing I do
gosh.
anyway. Just
Off.
take my shirt off.
This is-
Tarps off.
And then who wants to see that
That's
in
it.
paparazzi pictures?
See, I was thinking along the similar lines, except I wouldn't take my shirt off. I would actually just kind of pull it up a little bit
Nice.
so that my belly hangs out a little bit. And
That happens to me by accident. I don't need it in pictures.
Yeah, Fletcher's a little bit of Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, the shirt's a little too short.
right. So I would purposely Winnie
Yeah,
the Pooh
nice.
myself all
There you
the
go.
time.
I think I would probably carry glitter bombs around with me
Oh,
and
yeah.
throw them at them.
Yourself?
No, at the paparazzi, because who wants glitter all over them?
Yeah.
Just harass the
all the time?
paparazzi.
Well, they're harassing me, so
Take that.
yeah. So,
All right.
how would you bug the paparazzi if you had paparazzi following you?
Let
all
me
the
know if
time?
you'd also do the Winnie the Pooh. I want to know who would do that.
Grandma.
Anyway, if you have an answer, Instagram, email,
Instagram,
story at
yeah.
bfmc.org.
That's it.
Let us know.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, as always, we encourage you to read the stories for yourselves to get the whole picture of what's going on. And today's story takes place in Luke chapter 7, verses 1 to 10, as well as in Matthew chapter 8, verses 5 to 13. So, we're actually moving back in time a little bit from last week. Last week, we talked about Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch, and that was in the book of Acts. And today, we're actually going to go before Jesus' crucifixion to look at a time in his life and a miracle that he performed and a person that he encountered while performing that miracle.
Yeah, I usually try to keep them in chronological order for the
Yeah.
season, but clearly I did a little blunder here. So history-wise, it's written in Luke 3 that John's John the Baptist began his ministry in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar. He became emperor in 14 AD. So we know John the Baptist started his ministry in 28 AD.
Right.
So we know that Jesus started his ministry right around that time. So 30 AD is when Jesus started his ministry. And we also know that he did 3 years-ish of ministry before he was crucified. And that is in John, where it says that he did 3 Passovers, which happened once a year, 3 years of ministry. So today's story, takes place between 29 and 33 AD during the ministry of Jesus.
Pretty interesting that they mark time by the Passover feast.
By food.
And that very significant in our faith and in the Jewish faith, obviously, but also in Christian faith, as Jesus is the Passover lamb. So I love that.
There we go. All right,
Awesome.
So today's story takes place in a small town called Capernaum, and it sits on the north shore of the Sea of Galilee. So Capernaum is roughly 120 kilometers north of Jerusalem and is in modern-day Israel. Capernaum was considered Jesus' hometown after he was kicked out of Nazareth at the beginning of his ministry. And it's the home of Peter and Andrew, who were 2 of Jesus' disciples, and where he told Matthew, who was a tax collector, to follow him. So Capernaum's also the site of many of Jesus' miracles.
Murders.
Including today's.
Really? There we go. It was kind of like his hometown. It's where he hung out.
Yeah.
But
could you imagine being the people of Nazareth and like you shunned Jesus?
Yeah.
I mean,
After
I guess
the
not
fact.
just the people of Nazareth. Lots of people.
I love
back on the oops, shouldn't have done that. Should have listened to him.
I love reading the story because he's talking and preaching in Nazareth, and they go, "Wait a minute, that's Joseph's son. What are we gonna? Who's this guy? He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's crazy." And then they kind of walk him out of the city, and he goes, "Nobody's accepted in his own city."
Right, which
Not
is
even the
hilarious because
prophets.
basically they're like, "You're one of us. You can't be anything."
Yeah.
Which is an indictment on who you are.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, so back to the story. Anyway, Jesus has kind of recently started teaching, and he's just finished teaching kind of in the order of I think it's in Matthew and in Luke, the Beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount is the last thing that has happened in the book. But he's teaching, and he's on his way back to Capernaum. When he gets there, he's met by these Jewish elders who tell him about this Roman Centurion who heard about Jesus, and he sent them to ask Jesus to heal his servant. These Jewish elders kind of tell Jesus, this Centurion, he's a good guy. He's helped us. He's helped the Jewish people, and he actually built the synagogue that they worshipped at. So Jesus ends up following them to the man's house, and then once they get close, they're met by another group of people, and it's the centurion's friends, and they tell him, this is what the centurions say: "Don't bother. I'm not worthy to come and meet you. Just say the word from there, and I know he'll be healed." And he knows this because he's also in charge of the men. This is what he says.
Right.
"I have men that are in charge of me, and I do what they say. And then I have men that I'm in charge of, and they do what I say.
Right.
And I know when you say what you'll do, it'll happen." And Jesus is amazed by the man's faith, and he tells the crowd following him, he's like, "I've never seen faith like this in all of Israel." And then he continues to say that many Gentiles will come to the feast of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, which means come into the kingdom of heaven.
Go ahead, yeah.
But many Israelites who the kingdom was prepared for will not. So he kind of listens to this man's faith, and he goes, "You see this, people?" He turns around to the people following. "You see this? This is the faith I'm talking about. This is what I want to see." And then all his friends go back to the centurion's house, and he was healed. The servant was healed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how that speaks to our perceptions of people and who they are. I think the fact, centurions and Jews were not in the habit of getting along. Things were not great between them. The centurions often were unjust toward the Jews, treated them poorly, were able to demand that they carry their bags for a mile. That Jesus speaks about that in the Sermon on the Mount, and so the Jewish elder, they make a point of saying, this guy, he's good to Israel. He's not a horrible person. But the thing is, he's still a centurion. He's still doing the things that he needs to do as a Roman soldier, and Jesus recognizes his faith in even in the midst of all of the mess of his life, in the way that he's not living a life that is necessarily considered to be honoring God. He's making maybe some poor decisions, as well as some good decisions all in there. But that's not the prerequisite for Jesus to say, oh, I'm only going to heal Jewish people. I'm only going to heal people who are living right, or who are following me and have completely dealt with all of the sin in their lives. There's room for that working through the sin, which is not to say that even after this, maybe the centurion made some very drastic changes in his life and said, I need to follow Jesus. I need to treat people differently than the Romans, the empire is asking me to treat people. Mm-hmm. We don't know what transformation may or may not have taken place, but the life that he was living didn't disqualify him from what Jesus was offering. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I like that. I like that that Jesus recognized his faith in the midst of what was a bit of a messy outworking.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, what I've been thinking about, I read it and I've reread it, and then I'm thinking about, what did this guy do to get Jesus to be amazed by his faith? And
Right.
I'm reading it, and it's basically what he said is, because I have authority over people and people have authority of me, and I can command servants and slaves and soldiers to do whatever I want, I know Jesus has this authority over illness, over death even.
Yeah.
And he says he can do it from there.
Yeah.
And he's saying, I'm not worthy. He can do it from there.
Right.
He can do whatever he needs to do. And
Essentially,
he has that authority.
Yeah, he's recognizing the lordship of Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, you are Lord of all. I have a lot of authority, but you have even more authority,
Mm-hmm.
and authority over me, and authority over, like you said, sickness and even death.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Jesus is looking for in us. And he uses it. He uses that, and he says that very thing. He said, I've never seen this much faith in all of Israel. So I love it. I think it's a great picture of faith. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There we go. So that leads to our final question. So how does this story lead to the fulfilling of the story of God throughout the rest of the Bible?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, yeah.
But I was just going to say, I think it's just that whole, like, Jesus is Lord. And his rightful place is on the throne as the Lord of our lives. And as we talked about, the centurion maybe wasn't in a great place necessarily, or living a life that honored God in that time. But in recognizing Jesus' lordship, what we are saying is, Jesus, you are Lord. And so I'm giving you my life, and I'm giving you all of the elements in my life, and I'm allowing you to point out the areas that need to be brought under your lordship,
Mm-hmm.
and by way of conviction, through the Holy Spirit, through other believers, through reading the Word, whatever it may be. But that's what being a follower of Jesus is, more than anything, more than getting belief things right, or saying things the right way, or following a certain set of rules. It's about submitting ourselves to the lordship of Jesus and allowing him to lead us and direct us.
Mm-hmm. And I think adding on to that, you said this guy's not necessarily following the law or the right way, but what he is following is Jesus, and he's having faith in God. And you see, if you read the text again, it says, Jesus said to the people following him, lots of Gentiles are going to enter this kingdom of heaven, but you Israelites, who of course had the law and had the rules to follow, will not be in the kingdom with me.
Yeah.
So you think, what did the centurion do? He wasn't following the law.
Right.
He was acting in faith and living in faith, and that's what Jesus said will get him into Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's feast. This heaven.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Love it.
What do you think, Abby? Was that
Live a
a
life of
sufficient answer?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Living in faith?
Yeah,
That's good.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Pretty much living out the message of the gospel.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. That's what we hope to do too.
All right. Well, I guess that concludes today's episode. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Hope to see you next week.
Bye for now.
Guys, we're back.
We're back. We
Guess
got
what?
an announcement.
What's our announcement? Is it the same announcement that we have every single time?
The end
We have
of every
announcement?
season. It happened a little sooner, I guess. It's a short season just for the
Yes, it
summer.
is. Yes,
But,
we're going to be doing a live Q&A.
Really?
Woo!
Yeah.
Oh,
You didn't know, Jay?
I didn't.
Oh, wow. Put it on your calendar.
You know, yeah. Do you have the calendar out? You ready to write it down?
Yeah,
All right,
okay. I'll
get your
put that in
calendar
the
out.
calendar.
Ready? It is August
August
31st
31st,
at 5:30
5:30
p.m.
Oh, good, because 5:30 a.m. I'm not gonna be
2022.
able-
We might not get many
2020.
viewers.
Just in case you're here last year or next year.
Right.
Yes. So put it on your calendars, August 31st at 5:30 p.m. We will
And
be on
live
Instagram
Q&A.
and Facebook.
Yeah. And are we asking people for questions now a little bit ahead of time? Like send us some questions to
Absolutely.
think
Yeah.
So
Go
you
ahead,
can
send us
email
some
them
questions.
to where?
Story
Story
at
at bfmc.org, or
Yeah.
feel free to DM Abby on our Instagram,
That's right.
Yeah.
Story Fulfilled Podcast.
That's right.
Questions about the show, questions about the topics, questions
Fletcher,
about me.
about Jay,
Yeah.
about me.
They're going to be less interesting answers if they're about us, but who
Deep
knows?
theological questions if you
Yes.
want. And
Sure.
We'll defer. We'll hope that Bishop Cliff is watching, and we'll just defer to him for all of our
Tough
answers.
questions. Yeah,
There you go.
for sure.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All
So
right.
hope to see you then on our
August
live
31st.
Q&A, August 31st.
August 31st, 5:30.
See you
Bye.
then.
See ya.